Hello. Welcome to What Works, the podcast that we look under the hood of nonprofits and seeing what the best case scenario is for building and scaling teams around the world. I've learned that success has patterns, and the best operational secrets usually aren't found in the boardroom. They're usually found when you're grabbing that cup of coffee with someone or out on the field. So I've made it my mission to sit down with leaders and start uncovering what are those secrets so that we can make a positive impact where we've been called to go. So the wisdom we gain from one another doesn't stop at the borders. It is something that's global. It is something that crosses over from nonprofit to nonprofit. So I'm thrilled today to be sitting down with Chris. He runs At Work. And Chris, I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us, a little bit about what works to kind of get everybody on the board of preparing for this conversation.
Thanks, Marla, very much. I appreciate the invitation to be here and to talk with you. I'm CEO Chris Jahrman of, as you mentioned, an organization called At Work. We're located in Washington State. We do the work that we do in 4 counties within Washington, looking to expand in some other counties as well. So the work that we do as a nonprofit is we help people with disabilities, and specifically we help people who have disabilities find and secure employment and be successful at that job. So we have job coaches that will go with them to the work site, help them to be successful, and then eventually fade out and just be there if they're needed. We also work with community inclusion, which is when you have people with disabilities that they want to get involved in the community, but they're not sure how. Then we have several different ways that we can help them to go out and be part of the community, different activities, different organizations they can be a part of. And finally, the other way is through a transitions program, or we call it a school to work. And this is working with predominantly people that are in their senior year of high school, helping them to make that transition from school to the workplace, which is so important because, just a word on helping people with disabilities in this way. When we started as an organization back in 1962, not that I was there, but when we started the organization, what was going on with people with disabilities was referred to as sheltered workshops. That's where people would say, it just doesn't seem right that when a person has a disability that they stay in their parents' home, or they're in a house, they're in perhaps an institution somewhere, and they don't get out. They don't see other people. They don't get involved in community. They don't get involved with, the type of conversations that we might have at the workplace because they're not at the workplace. And so we went from the thought of, well, let's bring all the people with disabilities together that want to work, and let's put them in a single location, uh, a factory of some type, a building of some type, and let's have them make some product, and we'll sell this product, and we'll be able to pay their wages. But by the way, we weren't talking minimum wages. Sometimes we were talking 25 cents an hour.
Wow.
And so that took us from, well, that's a step in the right direction, but it's not really inclusive. And it's not celebrating diversity. And that they do have a sense of maybe being around other people, sense of community, but to be broader than that, to be part of something, then that's a much bigger ask. And so that's when we started supported employment. And I said that we were one of the first organizations in the state of Washington, probably one of the first in the country that really started the supported employment, or get people out of. We work with them to try to determine what their hopes are, what they desire to do if they've thought about it. We look at what we believe that everyone has the capability to do work, so we work with them to try to determine their level of skills and what we can do to help to improve those things. And then we find them a job. And what we find, and this is this is one of the things that gets me out of bed in the morning, is that I'll hear back from employers who will say, that person, John, Jenny, whomever, that you placed with us, they just make everyone smile because they're
Mm.
always smiling. They are just thrilled to be there in the workplace. People are happy when they see them, and it just makes the day go much better. And that's what I do.
Yeah, I was thinking about sometimes where there's stigma be
Hmm.
around those with disabilities.
Hmm.
But it sounds like once that's overcome, the level of humanity that comes as they see them.
Hmm.
What are ways that you kind of work on the stigma piece to even get people in
Hmm.
working?
Well, I think a lot of it is being able to demonstrate the worth of every individual. And I've spent a lot of time, and this is my first opportunity to really be an employee of a nonprofit. And prior to that, I worked for-profit enterprises, corporations. I worked for organizations like Delta Dental. I worked for regional insurance companies. Worked for startups before. And there's a huge difference there to me, that when I worked in more of the corporate world, one of the things as a leader I was always asking myself is, what could I do for this organization? On the nonprofit side, you wake up in the morning, you spend your day going, what can I do for this organization? Um, um, More from not what can I do for this organization, but instead you're saying, what can I do for this cause?
Mm,
And it's a remarkable difference. And I say remarkable in the true meaning, which is you remark to other people about it. If you're always thinking about what you can do for the cause, then you talk to people about it. Uh, and you help people to understand this is why it's important to hire people with disabilities. This is what they can bring to your workplace. You talked about being inclusive. We talked about innovation. And one of the first questions you ask in innovation is, how might we? And the important part of being able to come up with different ways is to get different perspectives. I had a person call me once who was a program developer at a large company putting together software for people with disabilities. But she was wondering if I knew anyone that had disabilities that they could they could do is run some of these new software programs through. And I got into conversation with her about, wouldn't it be great if they were there on your work staff, if they were there when you were exploring the type of software that's needed, when you were looking at the different capabilities and whether or not they would be useful or not useful. And I think that's at the heart of innovation, and it's being inclusive and getting those different viewpoints. So we talk about that with employers. We work in the state of Washington with about 200 different employers, so no small number. And we often use those employers to talk to other employers about the benefits that they are receiving, having people come in with disabilities. And I can tell you that certainly there's some employers who are not open to, so we're not in that world yet where everyone is able to see the inherent worth of each individual. Uh, but I think that we are definitely making strides and we're getting there.
yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things I guess I would say as well is that when we talk about the work that we do, this is taking a person uh, and having them do a meaningful job, be paid for that job, and then they pay taxes. And so, in that sense, you're creating, from a capitalization standpoint, you are helping our state to be successful. You're helping a nation to be successful. But more importantly, you're helping an individual to live their best life.
I love that. How might we?
Right.
That on concept of innovation and where you're putting it in different pieces.
Hmm.
It sounds like as messaging sounds like a really important piece of what
Hmm.
you do. What are tips that you have seen that really work to help with messaging? Because I see messaging from donors, from potential employers. What are some tips that you could give us?
When you're talking about messaging, like as an example, wording is so important. So uh, if it's helpful, some of the things that we do is we don't say disabled person, because that puts the focus on the disability. We talk about a person with a disability. Uh, and by the way, when we're talking that number, it's 1 in 5 people have a disability. And we're talking
Wow.
about 20% of the U.S. population, and it's not lower uh, globally. Uh, it's if anything, that number seems to be going up. And so it's helping people, I guess, through language of understanding how to talk about disabilities, and knowing that it's not something that is hushed, that you should not talk about. It's helping people to understand that there's pride in that as well. There's pride in seeing what the opportunities are, the capabilities are of every individual, and what they can bring to their one precious life. And it's I'm just often uh, in awe of people with disabilities that go into a workplace, are present, talk to others, and do such a fantastic job, because sometimes they have a unique skill set. They have, depending on the disability, it's maybe a particular attention to detail. It's understanding nuances of understanding that, well, there seems to be a question there I need to drill down into more. And what's most important when you're talking about people with disabilities is respect. And it's opening that conversation. I know that most people, I should say, that I've talked to that are not used to working with people with disabilities, if they see someone in a wheelchair, they're not sure, like, what do I do? Do I kneel down? Do I can I touch your wheelchair? Can I not? You have all these things that uh, become questions that are, uh, one, at least I'm glad that they're asking themselves that question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But two, if you ask a person with a disability, it's treat me as a person. uh, and that, yes, I like to see eye to eye, right? But on the other hand, do what's comfortable, because I will be comfortable if you're comfortable when you're talking with me.
That's wonderful. As you think through your staff, we were talking a little bit before that there's a lot of pressures
Hmm.
having a nonprofit. And what are things that you have seen help keep motivation and keep your staff, the employees or volunteers, motivated and on mission?
I think one is talking about our cause. So one of the things that I like to know about every employee that we have that works for At Work is what brought them to the organization. Um, and what is their personal connection to the mission of the organization, to the vision that we have as an organization. I used to do a lot of coaching and teaching at some of the prior companies that I worked for. And one of those things was on vision itself, and understanding the importance to, it's not just a plaque that sits there, it's in frame somewhere on someone's desk, but what does it mean to you? Because if you can take that down, put it at a personal level, then I understand that that person gets it and they're connected to the mission. A lot of people use terms like the big picture. And I don't know if you're familiar with that. Actually, that phrase came out of the early days of the motion picture industry, where they would uh, just do very tight frames, kind of like we have on our photos. I'm sorry, on our pictures here, and they weren't able to get you. You didn't see scenery. You didn't see that big expanse behind them. So it's like looking at the trees but not seeing the forest. And
Mm.
so, really, the secret is, of course, looking at the forest and the trees. And so, pretend you're a tree in that forest. So, what's your connection to the forest? Well, kind of the same when you start with an employer's. What brought you there? Some people might say, "Well, I needed a job," and might be true. But what was it different about this organization than another one that you may have applied to? And I'll give you just a quick story on it. Is uh, my uncle was literally Mr. Basketball of Indiana. I remember being, 8, 9 years old, getting the newspaper clipping out of the Indianapolis Star that showed him with the crown on his head. And
Wow.
for Indiana, basketball was the thing. And so, being a young boy in Oklahoma, where football was the game, not basketball, I always looked at him as very much a father-like figure. Uh, it's right at the tail end of a couple of years ago with COVID. I went back to I had lost my mother and father to COVID, unfortunately, and then I went back to see my uncle. About 10 years prior to that, my uncle was a combination of things that happened. One was a degenerative disease, the other was a factory accident that left him confined to a wheelchair.
Mm.
And I could tell that his spirits were really going down. And as we were leaving, he said, "Take care of yourself, Chrissy." He called me Chrissy. And I was in the car with my wife going to the airport in Indianapolis, and she's very intuitive. And she looked at me and she said, "You notice that your uncle didn't say 'see you later'?" And we got home, and the next day I got a call that he unfortunately had taken his own life. And when I was talking to his wife about the circumstances, she said that he just felt that he wasn't the person he was before. He didn't have value in the world. And I thought, and said to her, "But I valued him so much." And that was when I did something that I will never regret. I took a step back, looked at what I was doing, looked at my resume, and said, I need to do something different
Mm.
because I've learned a lot. I enjoyed a lot of the things I've done. But in my head, a mentor that I had was kind of echoing that said to me, Chris, what you need to do is you look for that job that you can wake up in the morning, you go to fun because you enjoy it so much. Well, I had my fun, but that wasn't enough because
Yes.
I was having fun and I wasn't reaching people like my uncle, people that needed to understand how valuable they actually are. And I started looking at my resume and I realized at that moment that all the things I have done did not compare to what was the very bottom on the second page of my resume. I know it's supposed to be one page. The second page of my resume was the nonprofits that I'd volunteered for.
Okay.
And those were the things I remember the most. And then I reflected back on talking to, people about my employees about, when I'm 80 or 85 years old, I'm getting closer to that. and I'm sitting in a on a rocking chair on a front porch or something, and I'm thinking about my life, it's going to be the people I remember. It won't necessarily be the results I remember. And I realized I needed to change the path I was on, so I started looking for a different role. And I within a week, I've found the job that I have now. They reached out to me, and the organization was formed in the same year I was born. The CEO's name was Chris. Of course, my name's Chris. There was just one thing after another that told me that I'm being drawn to this place, and whether you believe in destiny or not, or you believe that that really happens, I believe that that experience that I had tied me directly into the mission, to the vision of the organization. And that's the thing, that when I get up in the morning, I don't go to fun, I go to a cause, I go to do good in the world. And that's something that is, I'm very grateful that I've been able to have that experience and will continue to have the experience for the rest of my working career.
Chris, that's so powerful. And I love that the fact that it was those little lines at the bottom of the second page
Right.
that is what you could say, "Hey, look at this."
Right.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
that value of doing something outside of yourself.
So if you're looking for a job, yeah, turn your resume upside down and start at the bottom and
Yeah,
say, yeah, what did I enjoy here, or what was different about here than here? Maybe it's nothing. But I think it's a good question to ask yourself, because we all ask ourselves, what do we want to do in this one precious life, and that we all have. So
yeah. Actually, Chris, like I've been in the nonprofit world for the last 36 years, and I started really having a passion for leaders being effective leaders, not only giving vision, but developing the team so that there's that motivation and empowerment. We reach our goals. And so I actually have a framework called the value driven framework. And
mm, hmm
as you're talking, it just resonates with that you start with vision, you start with the why. You know,
absolutely.
our goals can be reached and we can do it in a lot of different ways and we can be proud of it. But the ones we're going to be most proud of are things that are outside of just that getting your paycheck or having something pretty on the wall or whatever. So that's really encouraging.
Well, absolutely. And I also believe that that people who have worked, are working in the for-profit world, if you will.
Yes.
They are needed working for nonprofits as well. And I'll give you a quick example is that as an organization, to provide supported employment services, it costs us about $108 an hour. And that's when you add up, that's all included. So when you take the salaries, the benefits, the operational cost of our buildings, paying the electricity bills, all of that, uh, it amounts to uh, a fully included cost of $1.28. And I'm telling you that this is the state of Washington's own study that was done 4 to 5 years ago, said for us to provide the services, it would cost us $128 an hour. But what we're pay you is was increased a few years back to $108. So $20 short. So every hour that we work with a person in support employment, we're $20 short. So what where you add value, I think, is especially coming from a for-profit enterprise, is as an example at work. We have for-profit enterprises. We have at work commercial enterprises, a landscaping business that uh, is goes all up our primary freeway, if you will. We do landscaping for different cities throughout the state of Washington, for different businesses, for different government uh, offices. We have one called Businesses Powered by At Work, and we do everything from there, which includes imaging. We do working with looking at fish files and marking those for the Department of Fisheries. Uh, just a number of different things that we're constantly working on in order to make up for that other $20 that we need, in addition to trying to get grants and getting donations from others. So that's not what I wish would happen, because what occurs then is that your focus, especially as a CEO, is on the mission and the reason that we exist. But in order to fuel that, I have to also be focused on the for-profit side of the house. And I think that, for nonprofits that uh, don't have individuals that worked on the for-profit side, it gets to be very difficult. In fact, we've lost about 40 different organizations that have similar to us in the state of Washington over the last 5 years. Because if you're not doing that, if you're in terms of trying to make up the difference, then you simply won't be able to make ends meet. And the real balance there is when you have people that work for you, that their passion drew them to want to work with people with disabilities. And so you want them to be able to focus on that passion and not focus on revenue. uh,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it is about uh, how can we keep fueling our mission, and so that I think is a call out to people to really look at their own experiences, things that they've done throughout their career, and then say, how might I be able to, could I utilize that in order to benefit an organization that's really truly focused on a cause that that I believe in as well.
That's beautiful. If you could go back and do something different that would be a lesson that you could teach us, what comes to mind?
Boy, yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is that probably the greatest journey that I've ever made, and I think any person can ever make, is inside themselves, uh,
Yes.
to truly understand themselves. I've talked a lot over my career about my own personal definition of leadership. And to me, leadership is around three things: head, heart, and hands. And using your head to think of the vision, the how might we, if you will, thinking about strategy for the organization, your bet on the future. But it's your heart as well, which is how do I use uh, my heart in a way that demonstrates that I see the value in every individual, but also your heart to give you the courage, if you will, to
Yes.
unveil your real self, to reveal it. And then finally, your hands, which are sometimes about reaching out to others in the hard work of change, but it's also about asking for hands sometimes to help to give you a push. And those are things that I would talk about, but in order to get to the point where I really felt that it was authentic, is I had to understand myself and understand that journey.
Yes.
And I think it was a German philosopher that said, your mind is a bit like an attic, and where you cover it up, therein is the lie. And so going through that and doing some real soul searching and getting to lead myself became the thing that helped me to be able to lead others. And I think that would be true of any individual. Be authentically you, be the authentic leader that you can be, and that will help to draw people to you so that you can be successful in what you're doing and help them to be successful in what they're doing as well.
Chris, I'm hearing a lot of humility in that too. Um, because there is, I think sometimes as leaders, we think we have to have it all together, or think we have to be perfect, or don't want to show mistakes, or cover things up. And what I'm hearing you say is to work with our head and our heart and our hands.
Hmm.
There's, by definition, is growth. That you're going to be different tomorrow than you are today, and
Absolutely.
that journey allows other people, especially those that you work with, the freedom to also grow
Hmm.
and continue and become the best part of themselves.
That's right. It goes all the way back to the ancient Greeks, if you will. It's that you don't want to find yourself standing in stagnant water. You want the water to always be moving. You want to be learning every day, and that's the thing I think that keeps you young, because you look what I learned today, and what is it that I've learned that I can help others with. And
Yeah,
really, it is about helping others, because that's where get my greatest enjoyment. That's not to say that you can't work at a for profit and have that same enjoyment. It's about where your focus is at, and certainly, if your focus is on helping others in whatever way that might be, then you're probably waking up feeling better than if you didn't.
yeah. I want to just highlight that statement. Uh, when you have the privilege of working for a nonprofit, there is something about giving the better part of your day to something that's outside yourself. But the for profit, you really can be investing. I'm actually been very impressed with some of the for-profit companies that are very purposeful with being a positive influence. But us as individuals, whether that's turning to your coworker, or being late for work because you had a long conversation with the person at the gas station, it can go in different ways. Chris, if people wanted to learn more about at work or get involved in any way, what should they do?
Well, certainly they can go to our website at work. Like I said, we have do our work right now specifically in the state of Washington. But if you were to look at our website, it's www.atworkwa.org. So atworkwashington.org. And we have a very gifted web designer. It's a great site that does a terrific job of explaining the hard work that we do and why we do it, and why we need assistance with being able to sustaining that work
Yeah.
for the next years to come.
Well, Chris, thank you. Like I said, when we met originally, I want to connect you with some of my Central Asian people that are working with.
Love that.
I just, I'm very excited because this is not just in the US. It really giving dignity to every person, regardless of their handicap. I was
Absolutely.
shocked when you said 1 out of 5, so
Hmm.
20%.
Hmm.
That's a significant number. So
It really is. It's the largest minority in the United States, but it's the one that's probably least talked about.
yeah,
And it cuts across really all cultures, all colors, all backgrounds. And in one way or another, each of us will have a day where we're fighting against a disability. It could be because we're aging. We don't have we're not able to walk unsupported. Lots of different things can happen. There can be accidents, different things, and so I think it's really understanding that what we're looking at is just the strength in every individual. So
that's great. Any last thing you want to leave us with?
off the top of my head, other than the fact that I enjoyed the conversation, as you hopefully can tell as well. I'm
Yes,
passionate about our cause, and I think that I'm also passionate about any cause really that helps people to have a better life, to live their best life. And so I would certainly encourage others to be involved with nonprofits. One of the things that I would say is that a large part of my background in the corporate world, if you will, is customer experience. And I think that's one of the things that has really helped nonprofits as well, because organizations don't are getting better at, instead of thinking internally, thinking about things from a customer's perspective. And so they're focusing on the end user, if you will, of the product, and how might we make that a better experience for that individual. And so it's that type of thinking that also can influence a nonprofit by focusing on who we here to help, who we here to assist, and how might we do that. And so I feel very optimistic about the future.
That's great, Chris. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I know we'll be in touch.
You bet.
But this has been really enjoyable. So we'll end it here,
All
and
right,
thank
Marla.
you again.
Thank you.